Good morning. Dear friends, today we discuss The Black Sheep, the novel written by the Frenchman Balzac. La Rabolizo, The Black Sheep is a 1842 novel written by Honoré de Balzac. Written as a part of the La Comédie Humaine series, it narrates the story of Bridau family. The title, The Black Sheep, was provided by Donald Adamson, who translated the book into English. The Black Sheep is set amidst political uncertainty in France and describes the lengths that men go in pursuit of their inheritance. Let us now look at Balzac. Honoré de Balzac, a French writer, was born on 20th May 1799 and he died on 18th August 1850. He was one of the most influential French writers of the 19th century. Balzac was born into a well-to-do French family. His father was a prominent lawyer and his mother belonged to one of the traditional wealthy families of France. Balzac was educated at a boarding school. Balzac often got into trouble at school and was punished for not learning his lessons by heart. To punish the students, the school authorities placed the pupils in a solitary confinement. Balzac, it is said, was punished over 100 times. During his solitary confinement at the school's alcove, Balzac read voraciously. At the dungeon in the school, Balzac imagined various scenes and sequences and tried to create plots and characters. On the completion of school, Balzac's family moved to Paris and he was educated privately for over 2 years. In 1816, he joined Sorbonne and came under the influence of Francois Guizot, Francois Villemain and Victor Cousin. On the completion of his studies, Balzac practiced law. Later on in his life, he attributed that 3 years of legal practice helped him comprehend the complex nature of human beings. Balzac wrote over 94 novels and they are collectively termed La Comédie Humaine or the human condition. Most of Balzac's novels are based around historical happenings. In his introduction to The Black Sheep, Donald Adamson attributed Balzac's style of merging history with fiction to his love of Walter Scott, the English author. Reading Balzac provides us a glimpse of 19th century's politics. The novel quotes various bills, reforms that are situated to man's quest for power and wealth. Balzac was interested in business and politics. He went into various businesses and often lost money, and till the end of his life he contemplated on starting new financial ventures. Adamson points out that money for Balzac is much larger than being a mere motive force of capitalist world. For Balzac, money is power, the agency through which one designs his life the way he wants it to be. Hence, Adamson points out that Balzac viewed money as a symbol of life force. Balzac married quite late in life, yet he wrote few texts on marriage. He believed in the Catholic Church and argued that any society based solely on the power of money should tremble at the prospect of the law's inability to curb the mechanizations of a system which aspires after success by permitting all possible means to be used in order to attain it. Such a society, Balzac argued, should resort to Catholicism. Balzac's writings are relevant today. When he died in 1850, his death was mourned across the world. He counted Victor Hugo among his closest friends. He influenced the works of Charles Dickens, Tolstoy, Emile Zola and Dostoevsky amidst many others. The Black Sheep is translated version of Balzac's La Robalizo, which was written in 1842. Donald Adamson translated the work into English. The novel describes in detail the conditions that France underwent in the early decades of the 19th century. The novel is realistic. It demonstrates that political uncertainty affected the lives of the commoners. The Black Sheep is divided into 3 parts, and each part is subdivided further into chapters. The first part describes the events that occurred after French Revolution. Through a history of Bridow family, it captures the effect that Napoleon had on the French Republic. The first part narrates the travails that the Bridows are forced to undergo post the downfall of Napoleon. It depicts the rise to fame and the gradual fall of Philippe. Philippe's career is similar to the fate of the Republic under Emperor Napoleon. Towards the end of the first part, Philippe is thoroughly discredited and the Bridows are almost bankrupt. The second part of the novel deals with the relationship between the sister and the brother. The action shifts to Issoudun. Agathe and Jean-Jacques Roget have not met each other for many decades. In Issoudun, Agathe and Joseph are put through massive tests. Max and Flore Brazier plot the exit of the Bridow as the wealthy Roget looks on helplessly. Balzac describes the activities of the Knights of Idleness in detail. The youth hailing from elite upper-class families live wasted lives. They bank themselves on their family wealth and spend their time doing nothing. They laze around all day, and in the night they destroy public and private property in the town. They play pranks on unsuspecting residents of the town. Thus, the novel also works as a commentary on the decadent lives that the upper classes led in 19th century France. In the third part of the novel, the focus shifts to Philippe again. Philippe thinks and outsmarts Flore and Max and succeeds in inheriting his uncle's wealth. However, he is greedy and attempts to cut his brother out of the wealth. The novel documents the tensions in the family. The tensions mirror the troubles of France. Unlike the depiction of family in 18th century European novel, where family was portrayed as a stable unit, and in those cases where problems arose between the members, the situation was attributed either to psychological problems or to sexual jealousy, as in case of Tom Jones or Joseph Andrews. In the 19th century, family is depicted as a strained social institution. The Black Sheep depicts a bloody fight between family members, and property is the reason for the feud. Like Galsworthy and Samuel Butler, Balzac points out that inheritance of wealth has the ability to distort the family structure and render it meaningless. Brother fights against brother, brother is wary of sister's intentions, illegal half-brothers and mistresses are wary of legitimate relatives. Dear friends, now let us examine the plot of The Black Sheep. The Black Sheep describes the events that occur in the lives of the Bridow family. The action in the novel takes place in Paris and Issoudun. Agathe Roget, the mother of the two brothers whose fortunes are described in the novel, was born in Issoudun. She is the only daughter of Dr. Roget, who was well known for his meanness. The doctor believes that he has not fathered Agathe and sends her away to be raised in the house of her maternal relatives in Paris. The Descoings are her maternal relatives. She is treated very well by the Descoings in Paris. She also believes that Roget is not her biological father. Agathe Roget is a sweet child and she adjusts to life in Paris. Madame Descoings loves Agathe. Agathe is married to Bridow, an honest and diligent officer working for the Napoleon's government. They lead a simple and contented life. The Bridows are comfortably placed and have two sons, Philippe and Joseph. Monsieur Bridow dies relatively young, and Napoleon pays for the education and the upbringing of the two boys. Philip, the elder one, who was the favorite of Agathe, becomes a soldier, while Joseph becomes an artist. After the fall of the emperor, Philip resigns from the army and states that he does not want to work for the Bourbon army. He refuses to take up jobs meant for civilians. He draws a daily allowance from the widows and becomes a drunkard and a gambler. Hence, Agathe agrees to fund Philip's decision to participate in the Champ de Asile settlement in Texas. Agathe and Madame Descoings pledge their savings and provide him the money to go to the United States. Philip is forced to return to France as his business fails. An unemployed Philip drains the family fortunes further. He is employed as a clerk in a newspaper subscription office. He embezzles funds from the newspaper. He is thrown out of the office. He returns to the family and becomes a financial drain on them. He resorts to stealing from his mother, brother, and Madame Descoings, and the actions result in the death of Madame Descoings. Joseph attends the school for arts and is a trained artist. He is dedicated to his mother, but Agathe clearly prefers Philip. She loves Philip over Joseph. Towards the end of the first part of the novel, Philip is arrested for his involvement in an anti-government conspiracy. At this juncture, the widow and the younger son undertake the journey to Issoudun to seek Roget's financial aid. Jean-Jacques Roget has inherited the wealth of his father. His father has ensured that he is the sole inheritor of the entire wealth. Jean-Jacques Roget stays in Issoudun and is accompanied by Flore Brazier, a servant girl, and Max Gillett, an ex-soldier. Flore and Max are in love with each other. Jean-Jacques is made to believe that Max is his illegitimate half-brother. Max and Flore Brazier work together and control the life of Jean-Jacques. Max displays a cavalier attitude towards life and is seen as a hero in Issoudun. He emerges as a leader of a group of young men who have christened themselves the Knights of Idleness. The knights are nocturnal creatures and go about playing practical jokes in Issoudun. The knights destroy the cart and the grain of Fario, a Spanish immigrant who works as a grain merchant in Issoudun. Joseph and Agathe travel to Issoudun to seek money to cover the legal costs which are required to seek Philip's release from jail. Max and Flore get prior information about the visit and ensure that Agathe and Joseph stay with the Honchins. On the advice of Max, Jean-Jacques, instead of providing money, gives Joseph some of the old paintings that are hung in the house. Max, Flore, and Jean-Jacques are ignorant of the actual value of the paintings. However, Joseph, the artist, recognizes their value and informs the Honchins about the gift. Unknown to the Honchin couple, their grandsons are a part of the Knights of Idleness. They act as Max's spies. As Max discovers the value of the paintings, he tricks Joseph into returning them. A hurt Joseph instantly returns the paintings. Joseph is humiliated and is unable to sleep during that night and walks across the town. When that night, Fario stabs Max. However, Max accuses Joseph of stabbing him. Joseph is arrested but is acquitted. On his release, Agathe and Joseph return to Paris empty-handed. Meanwhile, in Paris, the charges against Philip are proved. On the advice of his attorney, Philip agrees to cooperate with the authorities. He escapes with a light sentence of serving 5 years under police supervision. On the advice of his lawyer, Philip appeals to the authorities and requests to be transferred to Issoudun. The family lawyer believes that Philip is more capable of fighting Max and Flore and reclaim the mother's inheritance. Philip's departure to Issoudun marks another twist in the fortunes of the family. The departure of Agathe and Joseph from Issoudun marked a victory for Max and Flore. Jean-Jacques is under the complete control of Flore and Flore is totally controlled by Max. It is at this juncture that Philip lands in Issoudun. Philip meets the Honchen couple and wins their confidence. His personality and his record as a soldier win him the grudging respect of the town. His soldier instinct warns him to trust nobody. He does a recce of the town. The reconnaissance makes him realize crucial issues. He understands that Max is very popular in the town, hence he realizes the need to create new alliances and generate public opinion against Max. Philip realizes that his uncle is smitten by Flore. Philip understands that the conservative Honchen detests Flore and Max and could be a reliable ally. Philip revives his old contacts with ex-soldiers and makes new friends in the town. He learns about the activities of the Knights of Idleness. He befriends Fario, whose business was ruined by Max. Thus, having prepared the ground for attack, Philip introduces himself to his uncle Jean-Jacques. Jean-Jacques is startled to see Philip, who reassures him of his loyalty towards his uncle. Flore detests Philip and tries to avoid him. Max is overconfident and deems that he could easily send Philip away from Issoudun. However, Philip's strategic alliances ensure that Philip's position is formidable. Philip talks of his friends only in isolated places. He ensures that the grandsons of Honchens do not acquire any further information. Philip informs the Honchen couple that their grandsons are a part of Max's entourage. Fario and others are deputed by Philip to follow Max and report on the midnight adventures of the Knights of Idleness. The report turns public opinion against Max further. Philip also emboldens Jean-Jacques. Philip promises Jacques that he will ensure that Flore stays loyal to Jacques. Philip blackmails Flore that he would ensure that she is abandoned. Philip's soldier friend follows Max and reports his actions to Philip. Thus, Max is further sidelined in Issoudun. In desperation, Max challenges Philip to a duel. Unknown to Max, Philip, since his arrival in Issoudun, has been undergoing training to fight a duel with Max. Philip easily kills Max in the duel and becomes the custodian of his uncle. Philip takes complete control of Jean-Jacques' household and forces Flore to marry his uncle Jean-Jacques. Philip relocates the family to Paris and marries Flore after his uncle Jean-Jacques is dead. Later on, he abandons Flore with a pension and Flore dies a lonely death. Addison translations hints that both the deaths are arranged by Philip. Philip inherits his uncle's wealth, uses his contacts and obtains the title Comte de Brambourg. He marries a rich man's daughter. Philip disowns his mother and brother. He does not respond to his mother's letters. Changes in his fortunes does not bring about a change in his affections, and he refuses to meet Agathe even as she is dying. Joseph unsuccessfully tries to reconcile Philip and their mother before her death. However, Philip refuses to reconcile. Philip's fortunes are hit after some unsuccessful speculation. He rejoins the army and proceeds to fight the war in Algeria. He is killed in the battle. Towards the end of the novel, Joseph, who has become a successful artist, inherits the family fortune. The novel The Black Sheep marks an important departure in the evolution of novel as a literary form. It deals with contemporary issues and draws on contemporary social histories. The 18th century novel portrayed family as a desirable social unit and seldom discussed the issues of inheritance. In most of the 18th century novels, the discussion veered around personal relations. In the 19th century, the idea of wealth changed. Speculation became an important means through which individuals sought to become wealthy. It was also common for many of the 19th century personalities to invest their wealth in risky markets. Bonds, insurances, government deeds and shares in private companies emerged as new forms of wealth. It is not to suggest that the 18th century modes of wealth, including land holdings, were outdated. As industries were set up, industrialization and urbanization happened at a rapid pace. Thus, land holding began to be viewed as a steady form of wealth which could be liquidated when necessary. Thus, from the 18th century to the 19th century, thanks to industrialization and urbanization, the need for land went up. People began to view land and land holdings, houses and other such property as a means of security. The liquid capital was in turn used to invest elsewhere in private firms. The change in the economics brought in a social change. As the idea and the nature of wealth changed, the structure of family also began to change. The family was no longer a congenial social unit. Siblings fought over property and attempted to cut away one another from inheriting property. After many decades of relative peace, Europe was also plagued by political instability. From the concluding decades of the 18th century to the middle of 19th century, Europe witnessed French Revolution. The happenings in America, where war was fought for independence, further destabilized Europe. The Black Sheep describes the political situation. The reader cannot help but feel sympathetic towards the French population, which was witnessing the effects of Napoleon. The novel explicitly states the importance that wealth and inheritance have had on the imagination of the French public. In the first generation, the brother does not want his sister to inherit the family wealth. The father does not want the daughter to inherit the wealth. Jean-Jacques is quite comfortable with the idea that his sister has not received her part of the estate. In the second generation, the elder brother refuses to provide a share to his younger brother. Both Jean-Jacques and Philip are either interested in investing or in hoarding the wealth for themselves. The novel also describes the decline of family as an institution. The only stable family in the entire novel is that of the short-lived Monsieur Bridave. The Rogards and Honchens are not happy couples. In contrast to the Bridave family, these are wealthy families. Through a depiction of lives of such families, Balzac is indicating that wealth is not a guarantee for the happiness of either an individual or a family. Thus, the novel portrays that despite a shift in the nature of wealth, wealth alone does not bring happiness to an individual's life. On the contrary, it is portrayed as a source that destroys the social fabric. The novel also discusses the scope of women in 19th century. Within the Honchen couple, it is the Madame who has made the wealth. However, Monsieur Honchen is always interested in inheriting the wealth of his wife. He does not find it strange to wish that his wife dies before him so that he could inherit her wealth as well. Agathe is helpless. She is voiceless. She is a weak character who has no will to strengthen or to straighten up her eldest son. Madame Descoings is another weak character because despite knowing the weakness that her ward Agathe had for her eldest son, she refuses to make Agathe realize. Dear friends, in the first part of the lesson, The Black Sheep, we have discussed the themes and the plot of the novel in detail. We have also been introduced to a couple of characters who play a prominent part in the novel. In the part 2 of The Black Sheep, we will look at the characters in detail and also examine the role played by the Knights of Idleness in Issoudun. Hope you enjoyed the lesson and see you in the next lesson. Thank you.